So let's start with the webinar without wasting time. We have a short period of an hour dedicated for us to go through the webinar. It's a very interesting topic. We are discussing SharePoint 2013, how it positions as a collaboration platform or a product, okay, and why as career option or as professionals you should look at SharePoint 2013 as a platform for your next step if you need, okay. And during the webinar, if you have any issues at any time, please use the chat and questions window to communicate with me, because you're all on mute. Like, you can listen to me when I'm speaking, you can communicate back to me at any time using the questions window. Okay. So the webinar title, let me introduce myself. I'm Manoj Xavier. I've been in the industry for more than 14-15 years now, and I've been involved with SharePoint from its initial release, right? So that's a long time, because the first release has come in 2001. Now it's in 2000. The version is 2013, the latest version. So there's a lot of development and changes which has happened on the platform of SharePoint during this time. So our objective of this webinar is to position the product SharePoint 2013 and give you a very good intro. Like, is it good enough to take up as to learn the product and get working on it and look at SharePoint as a career option. Okay, so SharePoint 2013, the ultimate enterprise collaboration platform. So my objective during this 1 hour is to make you as comfortable as possible to understand the product, okay? Because SharePoint 2013 is not a very easy product to pick up. It's a very vast, because it has many functionality which I'll be showing you during the webinar. So objective is to give you in a nutshell what it is, show you a bit of hands-on on SharePoint so you get comfortable seeing the product in action, things like that, okay? So at any point, if you have any clarifications needed, use the questions window to communicate back to me, okay? Thank you. We are moving on. So on the first slide, you can see the link to the webinar, to the SharePoint 2013 course on Edureka, and for the other links on Twitter, Facebook, and other telephone lines and email addresses to contact Edureka for taking up the next step, okay? The objective of the webinar today, we'll be having in the 1 hour, right, we'll be having a discussion in which I'll be discussing a lot of things. I'll be telling you a lot of things about SharePoint. During the first half hour, the next half we'll dedicate for some demos, take you through SharePoint as such, right? So basically the objective we need is to see what is SharePoint as a platform, what are the features it provides, like enterprise content management, business process management, business intelligence, enterprise search, because that all combines into the product that we call SharePoint today. Okay, then the evolution of SharePoint, just to give a brief history of SharePoint, how it has evolved over the years to reach where it is today. Then, as people wanting to know what SharePoint is and to know SharePoint better, you need to know about SharePoint, the current market statistics, right? The statistics in the market, the job trends, the salary index regarding SharePoint. And we'll be looking at SharePoint from a programmer's perspective, right? Programming models in SharePoint, developer tools used, and we'll have a couple of demos at the end, and we'll have a question and answer session at the end. Okay, so we can have more discussions regarding the next step, and we have more clarifications needed, we can do all that. Okay. If any of you have any other concerns of any other thing before we start, you can let me know right now. Next slides, we'll be getting into the discussion and showing you other slides and the topics coming up. Okay. Right. We have a slide on in front of us, which is what is a portal. So before I jump into this slide, let me take you to a brief of the next slide and come back to the slide after that. Let's see what SharePoint platform is and how we define or what is SharePoint. Microsoft SharePoint 2013 is an enterprise portal solution which offers a wide range of integrated services. So it's an enterprise portal solution. That's a whole term, enterprise portal solution. So that's a term, that's why I kept a previous slide to define what a portal, the term portal means, okay? So we know that it's an enterprise portal solution which offers a lot of integrated service. Integrated services in terms of content management, which again is its own product, okay? Content management has a lot of functionalities like document management, records management, and a lot of other things we'll be seeing coming up. Business process management, which is workflows, right? Automated workflows to manage the business process in the organization. Business intelligence, and enterprise search, enterprise social networking, a lot of things. In the market today, there are independent products, enterprise product, which does each of these. Okay, there are content management products, there are BPM products, which is basically workflows and automation flows and things like that. We have business intelligence dashboard products from various leading companies like Oracle and other aspects. We have BI products, search engines are there, social networking products are there. So if an organization wants to go for the whole bunch, right, for the whole integrated mode, right, that's where we position SharePoint as. So SharePoint is a very vast product when you look at it. It has many functionalities like content management, everything. Each is its own independent product if you want to look at. SharePoint just bundles all of them together on a platform level. And why we call it a platform is basically, as developers, if you look from the programming aspect, or as developers, you have the option to customize or enhance the services. You can add your own modules on top of it, right? That's basically what SharePoint becomes interesting for the developer community. Now, before we move further, let me just explain the portal, enterprise portal, right? The term portal. There are two terms for it. One is called a web portal and enterprise portal. So people who have been on the internet and using the web today will be very comfortable with the web portal, what it is, right? Most like Google or Yahoo, right? You go to those websites, you enter a web page, but from there you access a lot of services. Like you can do your e-commerce, like shopping and purchases. You can do search. You can have emails. You can have many other services provided for you through a website. So a web portal refers to a website or service that offers a broad array of resources and services such as emails, forums, search engines, and e-commerce facility. I'm just reading from the slide, okay? That's basically the definition of a web portal. The first web portals were online service like AOL. That's very long back when AOL has come in, but today you might be very familiar with the Yahoos and Googles and other Microsoft like live.com and things like that, which offers all services. You go to those websites, you have many services provided by them. So a web portal is a website, but which provides many services for you. That's the term web portal. An enterprise portal also is a web-based interface. Okay, it's also a website or a web-based interface, but it's for enterprise applications, right? Like database applications or business automation applications or your CRMs, all working through the interface. So basically what it is, it's a lot of functionalities and services provided using the browser as an interface. Okay, that's basically what a portal means. When we have a web browser, the client needs a web browser to get into that environment, and through the browser you have all these facilities provided for you. Okay, so I hope you understood the term portal. So you can also now define the SharePoint platform or SharePoint 2013 better now. When you know what a portal is, SharePoint 2013 is an enterprise portal. It's not a web portal, it's an enterprise portal which provides you the following listed services. You have an image on the slide which gives you a very graphical representation of all these, all the bullet points over this. So what does SharePoint provide an organization? The simple question, the answer for that is not that simple. Okay, the question is simple: what is SharePoint? That's why I need a webinar to take you through all this. Okay. Okay. Because always the problem is people when they hear SharePoint, or developers when they hear SharePoint, I hope most of the, because this webinar ideally is targeted to, just a second, give me a one minute. Some interface on the screen here. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. Okay, continuing on. The simple question of what is SharePoint, that's what everything starts off. Okay, developers, most of you have touched maybe SharePoint or heard about SharePoint, and maybe have know people who worked on SharePoint, and they say it's too complex. Ideally, it is not complex. Okay, it's just that it has a lot of facilities and functionalities. That's SharePoint. Okay, but if you go in a step-by-step manner to learn from the bottoms up, means what? You learn the object layer first, right, and then link these the terms and the object layer into the functionalities. If you go by learning each functionality of SharePoint, you'll be confused. Okay, that's why people find it very hard to learn SharePoint, because to explain SharePoint itself will take me at least half an hour to what it does for an organization, because it has enterprise content management as one functionality. It has Business process management, which is workflow engine. It has a complete BI architecture environment in which you start with creating your in-memory data models, and from there you have your reports coming in, then you have your dashboards and everything bundled in. Then you come to enterprise search, you have something equivalent to Google in SharePoint. So you can have an organization-wide search engine. Okay, then you have social networking for within the organization if you want something like your Twitters and other things where you have your collaboration going on. So you have all these packages. So you go learn each functionality and see and learn that. You'll be pretty confused unless you know the core engine which controls all this. So objective of providing you an ideal, like a platform or a course, a structured course for learning SharePoint, is that takes you step by step into it, right? And from a developer's perspective, we first learn the object layer, the object model, and then we start learning the functionalities. Then everything falls in place. Functionality wise, that's where everyone finds SharePoint tough. Okay, I hope the brief description of SharePoint is clear. Okay, I have a participant who has put a question. Will the session be recorded? Yes, the session will be recorded and will be available on Edureka, right, for further viewing for the people who registered for the session. For who is registered, the session is being recorded. Okay, so you can view it later also. And please keep the communications coming in so that I know that you are with me. And if everything is fine or you want something more on a slide to be explained, please. Okay, I can see your questions coming in whenever you are sending it out. Okay. Now, so SharePoint as a start, so that's all objective for me is to start and explain to you what SharePoint is. Moving on to the next slide. Here we are just seeing one of the functionalities in a brief mode. So what I'm trying to do here is to break down SharePoint so that you feel comfortable to start in the product. Okay. Now later who and what are the prerequisites needed and how hard it is and all things will come later. Okay. Now first let's understand SharePoint. Breaking it down, you have at least major 5 modules as functionalities: content management, business process, BI, search, and social networking. Let's look at the first one, content management, what all services and functionalities it offers. If you look at enterprise content management, the first top layer, okay, one of the top layers functionalities of SharePoint, that itself breaks down into major other functionalities like document management, records management, web content management, work management, digital assets management, and managed metadata. You have enterprise content management, which is ECM, as we call it, breaking down into 6 of them. Let me give you a brief of all that, because each of these out there in the market are again smaller products. Okay, there are specialized products which does each of these. Document management is a way by which people can upload documents onto the portal, and the documents can be versioned, checked out, check-in, approval routing can be in place, right? Version tracking and all that. So it's a centralized place where instead of a file share, you're working through a streamlined and organized portal in which you have like folders. You have sites and libraries created where you upload documents and you can set permissions who can access them. Then the version history is kept. That's very important in an organization because changes, unwanted changes you want to roll back or approve. So all that comes into document management. Then you have records management, which is again very similar to document management because we are talking about files itself. But a document becomes a record, right? The term records management. A document becomes a record when it has a life cycle attached to it. A document having a life cycle attached to it is a record. And you want to manage that, saying that, okay, some contract, let's say a contract in a PDF format is uploaded to SharePoint or a document management system. And you're saying that if it's deleted or it's updated, a copy should be kept into another library, or if it's deleted, it should go back, it should be stored, it should not be deleted, it should be moved to another library. Basically, a lifecycle management. A document's lifecycle management, because in organizations you have strict standards to follow regarding data, right? Like information management systems. You have, not IT, I'm not talking about software, like you have industry standards which are applied, like software development companies have CMMI standards where you have a specific set of procedures to follow for every approval process. So life cycle management of documents is records management. Then you have web content management, which basically is managing the internet presence of the organization. It can be an intranet for within the company, it can be a public website of the organization, or it could be an extranet for business partners, or an e-commerce module for your suppliers to use. All these can be managed from one product, right? host and manage from SharePoint. You have everything like the public internet website, you have private internet, you have your extranet for your suppliers, all that. Everything managed means the manage the management module for all that means what are the DNS zone names needed, how the URL should work, what are the date, everything you manage from one product, right? That's web content management. Then you have work management. That's a new feature of SharePoint 2013 in which you have your, because in an organization why people go there is to do work, right? And work is assigned to you as tasks, right? You have tasks coming in your emails, right? Your Outlooks and other email clients, you have tasks assigned to you. You have tasks in your project management environment, right? You can have tasks created, local tasks. You can have tasks assigned by your supervisors for you. All these, manage that centrally so that you can pull data. SharePoint can pull task lists from Exchange server. You can take it from other products and centralize the entire task management or the work management in a centralized way. That's work management. Digital assets management, because that's again a new module coming to SharePoint 2013. The need for that, ideally in this today's world, right, with the gigabytes becoming cheaper, right, the hard disk storage, gigabytes when I say, because earlier GB was a big thing, today GB is nothing, right, we are going to petabytes and things like that. It's too big, and the disk storage environment has become very, very cheap, so the storage mode has moved from documents onto digital media. Basically it's more audio and video, right? Your human resource department will have most of the training documents stored in digital format, and a lot of other aspects of the organization might be in digital for training purposes and other purposes. So managing digital assets, that's a specialized module for managing digital assets. Then managed metadata is the last one. And when people mostly, previously when I talk about metadata, people confuse that with the latest term, big data. They have nothing to do with each other, okay? Big data is totally different. That's a storage mechanism, right, for relational database as well as non-relational databases, okay? Stores anything, that's big data. That's a new and a hot thing out there. But this here, managed metadata, is standardized term sets for the company or the organization, right? Term sets management, it's managed metadata. Term set is basically when you store documents or file fill forms and things like that, you have a standard set of terminology that needs to be used. You can't just type in anything you want because it's an organizational need. They have a standard term set and that people have to follow. How to manage all that is managed metadata. So just the one here, we started from introduction, ECM, enterprise content management, and here I've been talking about ECM in 6 breakdown aspects here. Enterprise content management is ECM, okay? Let's look at another one, business process management. A business process and activity, as we all know, business process, right? Most of you have heard of workflows. That's basically the whole thing. A business process and activity or set of activities that accomplishes a specific organizational need, right? A set of activities that accomplish an organizational need. So on the right side, I have an image which is basically most of you can understand. Even like a document is updated, what should it do? It should go for an approval, right? If it goes for approval, if it's approved, then do something, carries down in the flow chart, and does something at the end. It becomes approved, rejected, or sent back to the author for modification. So it could be a couple of end results which comes in. So to manage any of that, it's not only for document update, it could be for leave applications, for any other thing which needs approval in an organization. And in an organization, you know that everything needs approval, right? If you start with anything, everything needs approval. So automating all that so that you have a history of how the approval came in and all that kept. That's a module of BPM. And SharePoint 2013's BPM is done on Windows Workflow Foundation 4.5. And people who already worked, because most of you should ideally, people should ideally be either new to SharePoint or you might be coming from a developer environment. So workflows you might be comfortable with. It's basically creating document management or leave approval process and things like that for an organization. Okay, Windows Workflow Foundation 4.5 and things like that. Now, just one quick second. I have a request from Himanshu. Okay, please explain term sets. Okay, Himanshu, and for the others, because the question come in, I'll take a quick minute to explain that once again. Term sets, it's very simple. If you look at it, it's very simple, but when you implement that in an organization centrally, that's where you need a product like SharePoint to do that. Okay, let's give an example. Okay, let's say you're filling up a form in the organization, right? Because once SharePoint, you have an integrated product in the organization, you have all the forms in digital format. You need to fill up a lot of forms, right? If you're working, depends on the industry, right? You might, let's take the simple example of a leave application or a product request and things like that. Okay, anywhere you have maybe a request, say, let's say product category. Okay, you need to select a product because you're running out of stationery and you want to put a request for your department, right? There's a form to request for more stationery. In that, you select a product category, and the list of product category ideally comes from a database, right? You have a list of product categories coming up. Now, if you want to standardize that, right? Without, let's say you don't have a database, but you want a fixed terms coming in that drop down. Not only there, anywhere product category comes in any form throughout the organization, you should have these fixed terms coming in that. Because product category, the field in any form should be created by many other developers, maybe, okay, people who create them, okay. But if you want the same set of terms to come, and if you don't have a database, let's say a leave application, you have a gender, male, female, and something else. All these options which comes in drop downs and other sets and selection boxes. If you want to standardize that in an organization, saying that these are the available items and you need to choose from these. You can't just type in what you need. But to do that at an organizational level, that's one thing. The objective is simple, but at an organizational level, if you want to do it, it's quite hard to manage that. So you have a module to manage term sets for the organization. So you standardize the terms. I hope you got an idea of that, Himanshu. Yeah. Okay, Himanshu, with your next question, it's the same as site columns. So I know that you are from a SharePoint background. Now, it's not the same as site columns. Okay, the value of the site column, that's what metadata or the managed metadata is, Himanshu. Okay, it's not site column. Site column is a field which comes in your document libraries and list and other things. But the term set is the values which comes within that column. The column, let's say, is gender. You need to choose male, female, and others and something else maybe, okay? Those values are the metadata values, okay? Instead of you typing them down, if you have managed metadata implemented in your organization, when you create a site column, you can say a site column selects from this metadata values. That's how we relate them, this term set. The column will have these term set values listed in it. And plus, when you get in SharePoint, you have options for the user. You can give the user options to type in more or restrict that and things like that. Yeah. Yeah, I have another participant, Mr. Bhaskar, who's given a useful help information because, yeah, term sets, again, if you standardize these options, that's one example I gave you of site columns and drop-down fields. Here, he's, again, I know that he's from SharePoint background, is very useful for refining search results, right? When you do search, it's very useful for that. Thanks, Bhaskar. Yeah, thanks for your input, okay? Plus, I have another question from Deepak. Can we manage term sets in hierarchy? Yes, you can. Okay, you can go up to any level in hierarchy to manage the term sets, the terms in the term set, Deepak, okay? And thanks, Bhaskar, for your input. Yeah, it's useful in search, it's useful when you fill up forms, select values and all that, wherever. But you want these values to be managed centrally. That's the whole point of having managed metadata as a module in itself. Okay, instead of scattering keywords and terms and values everywhere, right? At the end of the day, you want to change one of them, you have to ask n number of people to say now, from now on, you need to enter this value instead of that. Don't have to do that. Centralize all that in one place, okay? Plus refining search results. Okay, great. Right, I hope these explanations were clear for you. Okay. Okay, Keshav has a question. What is InfoPath? InfoPath is a product of Microsoft which is used to create e-forms, right? Forms, right? When you have to design forms like leave application forms and product requests and other forms for the organization, you use InfoPath. Okay, that's a product like Office product. MS Office is one of the products in that in InfoPath. In SharePoint 2010 and before, the previous versions of SharePoint used InfoPath to create the forms and then import into SharePoint and work. But in SharePoint 2013, you don't need InfoPath as such. You can design your forms in your .NET Visual Studio environments and other things like that. So InfoPath is not a critical component of SharePoint 2013. But previous versions of SharePoint, you created the forms you needed for the organization and info path and import that and use that in your workflows and other things. Okay, currently it's not needed. Okay, you can create, but it's not needed. It's not a mandatory option anymore. Okay, Kesha, thank you. Right, shall we move on? Moving on. So I'm just explaining the first component is enterprise content management. Then we went to BPM, which is business process management. Business process management is explained a bit more. And the best part for people who worked in SharePoint before, in SharePoint 2010 or SharePoint 7 or previous versions, creating a workflow, you had two types of workflow, which is a state machine workflows, right? Sequential workflows. And when you create a project of workflow, you needed to choose you want a state machine or a sequential workflow and things like that. In SharePoint 2013, that's a major change. First change is that you don't need to choose what workflow you're going to create. You just have to design your process as it is, right? It's a free model. And the model is called a stage gate model. As you can see on the image on the slide, it's a stage gate model. Workflow can have, let's say, a stage A, starts with something, actions are taken, meets a condition or not. You could go iterate back to A, the same step, or you could go to step B or step C, depending on the results of step A. So you have an option to iterate back to the same step, or depending on a condition met by the first step, you could go for stage. You could go to stage B or stage C and continue on like that for n number of levels as needed. Iterate back onto a previous step. Okay, I have a participant saying he's not getting the sound clearly. Nurullah, could you just contact the support, because we have a very short time, so it's impossible for me to stop right now, because if others are also having the same issue, I'll have a break in the session, but otherwise I need to continue. This session is recorded anyway, okay? So you can, or just check your connection at your end. All right, thank you. Right, moving on. I was saying business process management for a developer's perspective, because this webinar and the SharePoint course on Edureka is from a developer's perspective of SharePoint. Okay, it's the back-end view. It's not how users view SharePoint, it's a back-end view of SharePoint. And workflow management and creation is completely declarative. That's the best thing you will like. Creating workflows, there is no code required. Okay, that's a major change in SharePoint 2013, because people from previous versions will find a lot of things which are streamlined to the industry and made a lot easier to do. Okay, first of all, if you talk about workflows, there's no models you need to choose. It's a free model. You choose a condition state. The stage itself can have many actions and things happening. You can check for actions if a particular option is met through the gate, sent to other stages, or call the same stage again. So it's a free model, right? Because earlier you had sequential, which is a 1-1-1, step by step, only forward method. One step has to call the next one, then the next one, then the next one. You can't come back in that. That's a fixed model. A very simple workflow. Options can be done with that. Or you had state machine workflow, which was pretty complex to do. Then you have managed states and things. Then a lot of code had to be written for that. You need not do any of that, because the latest technology used in SharePoint 2013 on Windows Workflow Foundation 4.5, using the communication foundation, the backend logical scenario is taken care for you, and a beautiful front end for creating the stages, and it's fully declarative for doing it. You can use, and the primary tool used is SharePoint Designer to do workflows. Okay, so you have the slide in front of you. You have most of the things I've been explaining, designed and developed using SharePoint Designer. You can use Visual Studio 2013 or 2012. Visio can be used. You know what Visio is, right? It's one of the best architectural products for drawing all linear diagrams and blueprints and a lot of things like that. You can design your graphical view of your workflow in Visio, right? Import that into a SharePoint Designer so that the code gets created for you, right? All that. So it's fully declarative and a lot of tools to use to do that. So it's basically telling you the BPM engine has been completely revamped. Okay, it's a free model in a sense that you don't have to choose a fixed model to start, so that later you're stuck. You redo all the things again when you feel that your requirement is not matched by the model you chose. So things like that. Okay, Deepak has a question. So all designer workflow like list, site, reusable workflows are removed. Yeah, Deepak, one more thing in that, good that you pointed out the point, because I missed to tell you, you don't need to be scared when I say that the workflow engine has been revamped. Okay, workflows done in SharePoint 2010, the previous version is fully compatible. Okay, you can bring in all the workflows you did in SharePoint 2010 and they'll directly work in SharePoint 2013, but the new workflows you create in SharePoint 2013 are done separately in SharePoint Designer and all that things. Okay, so I am not from Microsoft, so I can't tell you whether they'll be still supported in the next version they bring in, but as of now, SharePoint 2010 workflows work completely in SharePoint 2013 and other things. Okay, right, Deepak, thank you. Keep your questions coming in so the session becomes more interesting, so I know what your backgrounds are, you can get your clarifications done easier. Right, so BPM, I hope the workflow intro, this is just an intro, okay, please, okay, so don't ask me more things and more things because we will be stuck on the slide itself, because workflow itself is a very interesting and a large topic to discuss. But my primary objective to tell you that workflow model is an open model or a stage gate model, which is an open model in a sense that you're not restricted by the number of steps which starts after one step. You can, from step A, you could launch 5 steps at the same, asynchronously or synchronously, that's your choice. And each of the steps could have many steps starting again, and each one of the steps can call back a previous step. Any of these, that's why I call it a free model. Okay, so that's workflow for SharePoint. Then you have business intelligence, right? And in that we have all these engines: Excel 2013 BI, whatever Excel 2013 works can be natively imported. If you have your managers and sales, most managers use Excel, right? And they're stuck with Excel and they like everything to be as Excel is. That's, if you have been in the industry, you'll know that, right? People, whatever product you show them, you'll say, can you do the way I am doing? Because he'll be doing that in Excel and you want the output in how Excel is. So everything that you do in Excel 2013, all the BI functionalities natively can be uploaded to SharePoint, and the workbook will work the same. Okay, the managers or people who use Excel, right, can directly upload whatever they've done in Excel into a SharePoint site natively. And Excel, as it is, your pivot charts and tables and your Power Views and other things will work natively in SharePoint. Okay. Rajendra has a question. What about custom actions? So yes. Let me say yes and no. Okay, there are some criterias. If your custom action matches some criterias, it can be important, otherwise not. Okay, I can't give you 100% confirmation on that because most people in the presentation might not understand what custom actions in SharePoint is. But you can say they are, on a high level you can say they are compatible, but if they refer to some specific functionalities of SharePoint 2013, then they cannot be imported to SharePoint 2013. Okay, otherwise most custom actions can be imported to SharePoint 2013. Okay, because that point needs a lot of discussion, right? That's why I told you, because if you have worked in it, you will understand what I said. It depends on the features you have listed in the custom. If you have done some custom code to refer to some SharePoint 2010 functionality which might not be supported in 2013, then yes, you cannot. Otherwise, most custom actions can be imported. Okay, moving on. Okay, I was talking about business intelligence module. It's a full-fledged module. Okay, you have dashboards, right? Like I'll show you an example on the next slide here. See here? Like you can have a complete working regional or a global map from which you can link and select the region and all the other, right? Sales charts and other forecasting charts change according to your selection on the map and branches and everything. So it's very interactive, right? It's using the latest Silverlight, other technologies, so it's very beautiful to see, right? So dashboards can be rolled out, all functionalities of Excel, plus you have your SQL Server. If you know, Microsoft SQL Server has a OLAP engine in which you can create cubes, and these cube outputs can be directly viewed in the BI layer, which is the dashboard layer. You can have reports from reporting server published onto SharePoint, Performance Point, Visio services, all integrated. So it's a full functional, beautiful layer. It's a BI, okay, business intelligence layer here. Then you have enterprise search, and you have, I've kept you up because talking about a lot of, because search is something I don't have to explain what search is, because every day at least if you've been on the internet as a technology guy, you will be using search engines for reference, right? So you all use search. You want something similar to what you see in your Googles and other top level search engines. Microsoft has it in SharePoint 2013. Okay, SharePoint 2013 is very different from SharePoint 2010. Okay, it's upgraded a lot. You have instant views. You can see the image I kept on here. Just keep the mouse on that and I'll show you a quick preview so you don't have to get into the link. Plus, as a developer from the backend, the query engine called Fast, it's built in now. You don't have to purchase a separate license for fast queries for SharePoint. It's built in. Fast query engine is built into SharePoint 2013. So it's a complete, it's a big change, and it's an enterprise level service that you have in SharePoint now. Okay. Before we move further, let's roll back to where we started. So I hope you understand. So here my objective is not to scare you off, okay? My objective is to make you understand why explaining SharePoint takes a lot of time. If you just ask anyone who knows SharePoint properly, if you ask someone who doesn't know SharePoint, he'll just say it's a portal, you can do websites and things like that. It's not, okay? Apart from this, you have a huge amount of other related services, okay? You have user profile service where people can create their own sites, personal sites, link onto that. You have around 25 additional services than these main modules. These are the main modules and main functionalities. Content management, business process management, business intelligence dashboards for the management level and all that, enterprise search, social networking. So it's a huge product when you talk about it. But learning the product is the guideline I've told you. Learn from the back, the object layer. You learn the object layer and get into the product, then everywhere you know, okay, if this functionality is, then it should be related to the next step, which will automatically understand if you know the architecture, the object layer architecture. Okay, Pranay, please. Okay, please ask your question. Yeah. So, on the next slides, I was just explaining the each section modules, the main modules like BI, search, and this slide is just a reference slide for you to understand. Okay, Pranay has a question, and it's not related to SharePoint as such, but it's related to Office 365. If you heard of it, Office 365. Pranay, SSRS is not his question is, why is SSRS not supported on Office 365? It's not supported because it's basically meant for Microsoft Azure Cloud. Office 365 is meant, it's a version of SharePoint which works online, which is on the cloud, on Microsoft Azure Cloud. Okay, and SSRS license is basically a license issue. It's not that it cannot work, because Office 365 has the SharePoint 2013 engine itself, or SharePoint engine as we say, right, at its core. But SSRS is an enterprise license product. Okay, that is why it's basically a license issue. It's not a compatibility or technology problem. Okay, Pranay. On-premise, yes, Pranay. On-premise versions of SharePoint supports it. On-premise version is when you have a license of SharePoint 2013 implemented within your organization. SSRS is supported directly, complete full support. But when you have your Office 365 environment, which is an online version of SharePoint, right, SSRS license is not supported, because they are still working. It's a new changes, new things are happening. They might support later, but as of now, the license versions are not supported. That's all. But on-premise SharePoint supports SSRS out of the box straight away. Okay, let's move on. Thanks, Pranay. Okay, on the slide, as you can see, I've just given an evolution path so that you know what you're going to learn. SharePoint 2000 Server 2013 stands in the versions now. So you had SharePoint Server 2001, right? SharePoint Server 2003, SharePoint Server 2007. You can see the names also getting changed. Okay, initially it was SharePoint Portal Server, then SharePoint Portal Server in 2013. Then you have Microsoft Office SharePoint Server, because Microsoft was looking at integrating. Microsoft was looking at integrating MS Office more into the SharePoint environment in that version. Then you had Microsoft SharePoint Server 2010. And you have Microsoft SharePoint 2013. It's a product which has evolved a lot. If you look back into SharePoint in its initial release, it was just a web content management product. Basically, it was web content management. You could create websites, internal sites, external sites, and all, and manage your web content. One part of what today SharePoint is. Okay, In SharePoint 2013, you saw web content management comes under enterprise content management, okay, and you have many other things to do. But the initial release was just web content management product, and it grew over the years. You're talking about around 10-15 years now, right? At least 15 years of evolution. So it's reached where it is today, and it's a very functional product. Once you've seen the industry, how it is and how it's grown, let's see the market statistics for SharePoint. The information I kept on this slide is from the web itself. It's from Microsoft and other research companies' websites. Okay, so these are actually facts wherever we have. Because because ideally when you like SharePoint and you want to learn things in SharePoint, right? You will be the first thing you know. If I learn it, what is my opportunity and what are the next steps I could move? So basically, you have 80% of Fortune 500 companies use SharePoint. In the last term is important. They use SharePoint in some capacity. Means what SharePoint could do a lot of things. Okay, as you've seen before, just beforehand, the things I was explaining to you, SharePoint is a lot of things, right? It could be a content management product. It could be a BI product for the organization, because it depends on the license. So you could purchase SharePoint from Microsoft and say, okay, for our company, we just need the BI layer. So you could just use a BI license for it, or the search engine itself, only the search, or only something else like that. But in large organizations, most large organizations have SharePoint in one or the other capacity out there. And introduced in 2001, the adaptation of SharePoint peaked during the end of 2010, you can say. 2006 to 2011, there was a lot of movement, because with the release of 2007 and SharePoint 2010, a lot of migration happened onto SharePoint, and now a much more streamlined version has come in, and the current rate of SharePoint licenses, you can see the third point here, SharePoint user licenses at a rate of 20,000 new users every day. And that's our current statistics of SharePoint rollouts, okay? So it's a very in-demand product, right? Just a quick view of the job trends out there. Now this job trend is not with the number of jobs available, it's basically the scarcity of developers out there. When you call a SharePoint developer, it's color-coded basically, right? I've equated SharePoint developer to a .NET developer, an ASP.NET developer, or a Java developer, okay? Now, from a developer's perspective, right? From a developer's perspective, this whole webinar I have modeled around a developer, as you're coming into SharePoint from a developer's perspective, because you can look at SharePoint in two ways, as a developer, and not in two ways, you can look at it in three ways: as a developer, as an administrator, or as a user. Okay, as a power user who's using just the functionalities given to him. A developer looks at it from the object model and sees where all can I change this product, how can I enhance it better, can I add more functionalities to it. That's what a developer's job is. An administrator's job is to look at scalability and administration, rolling out SharePoint for organization from an administrative perspective, configuring, installing services and things like that. Developer's job is to enhance the existing functionalities and things like that. So job scarcity level, you can see where it stands, okay, because SharePoint developers are a hot property in the market, right? Who can come into SharePoint can be a .NET developer. Today in SharePoint 2013, that's my point, okay, not previous versions of SharePoint. I'm talking about what is available in the current version. Any developer who's good in Java, who's worked in Java or .NET, right? Any of these platforms, either Java or .NET, can learn. I'm talking about developer's perspective. You don't confuse it with administrator, because administrator doesn't need to know any programming at the end of the day. But as a developer, if you have a .NET background or a Java background, you can completely come on to SharePoint 2013, because it supports Java development environment, it supports .NET development environment, all that. Because in SharePoint 2013, you should have heard about apps, right? The new things, right? The apps and other things that can be completely developed in Java, because it's an open object model given for you. We'll move on to those slides coming up. I'm just giving you an intro on to the next slides coming in. I have a question from one of the participants, Mr. Deepak. Working on SharePoint 2013 and started learning 2013, but I always confused between SharePoint 2013 apps and client object model. Could you please differentiate them? Okay, done. Deepak, that's for the next slides I'm coming to. Okay, let me finish these slides, because here I'm positioning SharePoint for you as where we stand, because At the end of the day, if you want to spend your time learning a product and getting the technology and working hard on it, you need a better job prospect for it, right? A better move. It's a very hot product, and demand for jobs and salary index is shown for you. This on an average. These slides you can refer later also. These are from, as you can see on slide, it's from Indeed.com, who are a research company, right? Market, a job research company and provider also. At an average, there's around 30% increase from a pay scale of a developer as a .NET or Java developer and a SharePoint developer, ideally. Because when you say SharePoint developer, it's not a person who can customize the interface and all. It's a person who can actually create your workflows, which is declarative or not, apps for SharePoint, customize services and things like that, and a higher level. Okay, such knowledge, yes, you have a higher pay scale also. So it's a very hot market job, and you have a higher pay scale also. Okay. Right. Once we have positioned the market of SharePoint, that I hope you're clear with that. We have seen the slides of, okay, that 80% of companies are Fortune 500, which are the large companies. 80% of them use SharePoint in some capacity. Then I showed you the job trend and the salary index also. Okay. I have a question again from another question from Rajendra. An app can be created in Java, PHP, Extra. Will it support on 2013? Yes, it does. Okay, so that's what the slide is all about. So let's focus on the slide here. The programming models I have listed here. SharePoint, if you want to extend SharePoint, means what? You want to create your custom solutions on SharePoint, right? You want to create custom components in SharePoint. You can use SharePoint's server object model or .NET client object model, JavaScript client object model, or if you don't want to be on any of those platforms, you can use the completely open standard, which is REST and OData and OAuth for authentication. Okay, REST OData, representative state transfer interface, and open data protocol. Or Silverlight, if you're a developer from the graphics arena, right? You want like the best looking, the interface wise. Okay, Silverlight client object model, because if you're creating a website or SharePoint is being rolled out to let's say an auto giant like Toyota or Mercedes or BMW and things like that, right? Or Lamborghini, let's say. The interface of the site should be beautiful, right? It should be excellent. You can do all that in Silverlight object model programming, okay? The Silverlight is basically the layer like Flash, the Microsoft layer like that. Or if you want to target onto mobile devices specifically, or the Windows PowerShell scripts are available to doing that, okay? So basically the objective here is that this slide I've kept for you to give a very high level understanding of the programming options. Means what all languages or techniques can you bring into SharePoint with you, right? If you're a .NET developer, the first two, which is SharePoint Server Object Model and .NET Framework Client Object Model, will suit you fine, right? Or you're not from .NET, you're from Java and PHP and all. You could use a JavaScript Client Object Model, which works fine. Or if you are right on open source standards, okay, not using Java and .NET and Microsoft, you could use REST and OData endpoints, Silverlight and all things like that. So it's an open site. You could bring any of your technology skills to SharePoint and work, right, without difficulty. Now, I had a question from Deepak earlier, saying that he was always confused between a client object model and an app. Okay. Now, let me tell you that these object models can be used to create apps, except the first one, SharePoint Server Object Model. Except the first one, apps is nothing but an independent component, right? In SharePoint, most of you have seen SharePoint interface, right? If you come to a website, it just looks like a website, and the functionality are the components inside that. So if you want to create your own component, you have two options in SharePoint 2013, which is web parts or apps. Web parts are server based, means they run within the server, on the server, within the server's memory. That's web parts. Apps are same like web part, they're independent components, but they can be created and hosted on external entities, right? They're client-based. Client-based means they don't run within the server memory or environment, they run external. So you could have an app for SharePoint hosted on a completely different platform than Windows itself. and that environment functionality could be exposed through SharePoint. So app model is completely open model. Okay, you could use .NET Client model or JSON, JavaScript, and things like that to create it. And it doesn't need to be on Windows platform also. It could be on an external platform and still work as an app in SharePoint. Okay, so basically apps and web parts. Web part is a server model. App is a client model. Okay, we'll go into discussing that alone. But just to answer Deepak's question, client, yeah, Deepak, I think you understood this. Thanks, Deepak, because client object model and apps has nothing to do with each other. Okay, apps is a component like web part. You can either choose a web part or an app when you want a component to be created in SharePoint, a custom component. Client object model is a way you do it. You could choose any of these for that. Okay, Deepak, great. Himanshu has a question. JSON is the same as ECMS script model. Yes, it is, Himanshu. It's the same. Okay. Pranay has a question. An app will have its own list and libraries and event receivers. I don't understand the question. Its own in a sense like what? No, they can reference, or what you create in an app can reference what is there in SharePoint, right? It has to ultimately call the SharePoint object model, right? You cannot create its own list and all. The app's code could be running externally, but it has to link onto components and objects of SharePoint. What you use in the code, you should reference, like when you create a new list, the list has to be of the type list in SharePoint class. So that's why you have many of these object models available. You could create a list or a new document library onto SharePoint using .NET client code, JavaScript client code, or SharePoint server code itself. Okay, or REST or data functionalities if you need, or Windows PowerShell scripts if you need, or Silverlight object model if you need. So you have a lot of see that's why I say SharePoint 2013 is a very stable and a futuristic product, because it's not limited to one thing, right? It's the development environment is open. You as a developer could choose your .NET skills or your Java skills or your open standard model skills like REST skills. You know, people who are using REST will know that, to come into SharePoint and start using the product from a developer's perspective. Okay. Himanshu has a question. What is the difference between SharePoint Visual Web Part and SharePoint 2010 and okay, Visual Web Parts? Okay, that's people who don't know that will feel a bit this thing. But otherwise, if you know what Visual Web Parts are, Himanshu, they have no difference. Okay, Visual Web Parts in SharePoint 2010 and SharePoint 2013 are the same. Okay, it's just that in SharePoint 2013, it's much more easier to deploy and configure them. Okay, absolutely no difference. They are the full powerful entities in SharePoint and they run within the server. They haven't changed. Okay, Himanshu. But the deployment method in SharePoint 2013 is much more streamlined in a sense. Okay, right. I hope I've answered most of the questions only on programming models. This is just one slide I kept for you to just show an object model of SharePoint, how it is. Okay. From a developer's perspective, you could have SharePoint server object model. Like the first layer is SP farm, this is SharePoint farm or SP farm class. Under that you have SP services, service applications, SP web application, SP site, SP web, SP list. And under these, each of these classes, you know that classes have functionalities like methods and other properties you can call, create, update, anything you need to do. So this is the SharePoint server object model, and most of the object models have the same hierarchy list. So in SharePoint Server 2013, it's not your programming skills you need to learn. It's basically a new object model you learn and use your existing skills, because you already know how to create a class object, right? Object class, and use the object class properties, methods for your own functionalities and things like that. It's the same skills, just that it's a new object model you need to learn for SharePoint. Okay. I hope most of you are comfortable in the slides I've just explained from a programmer's perspective, how and what it is. Okay. Client support, SharePoint 2013 supports almost, I can see the browser support is listed on the left side, but it supports all smartphones and tablets and all built-in. There's built-in support, plus you have functionality called a device channel, which you can create in SharePoint, right, to target specific devices. If you want Android to display your pages and or your output of SharePoint in a particular way, you could have a device channel so that when they connect, you have a separate design pages and HTML pages output for them, like a separate master page for this channel. You can target channels, okay, different channels you can create. So depending on the query string connection, different views of the same content. The same content, but in different views could be shown to different devices. You could do all that. But out of the box, SharePoint supports all tablets, PCs, and everything. Okay. Developer tools use the primary tool for development. When you talk about custom list and custom web parts, apps, and things like that, the primary tool you use is Visual Studio. Right, Visual Studio 2013, because it supports you have a project type for SharePoint built into that. Right, so you could take a project type of SharePoint and choose you want to create an app or a web part, choose which language you want to work in and things like that. Okay. Plus your SharePoint Designer 2013. SharePoint Designer 2013 is there, and Visio 2000. SharePoint Designer 2013 is the primary tool for workflow creation, site management, and a lot of other things. Very powerful. Visio is also there. Other developer tools, you have a long. These are all supporting tools, not primary tools. You have primary tools was the last slide I've showed you. Visual Studio, SharePoint Design, and Visio. Developer tools, you have Ajax, Silverlight, Control Toolkit, Developer Dashboard, Color Palette, a lot of other ones. And these are all free tools, by the way. Okay. Visual Studio is not free; it's a licensed product. Okay. Even if you're a Java developer, to use Java skills in SharePoint, you could use Visual Studio because you're writing JavaScript code and the compatibility checking, debugging, compiling, everything is built into Visual Studio now. Okay. Great. Developer tools, and for a bit of demos. Okay. And while I start up, not that because we already have reached an hour's time anyway, but I'll show you most of the things, because doing and show you something fancy is not the core thing. My objective primarily here, I'll show you most of these things coming up. Primary objective was to make you comfortable to understand what SharePoint is. It's just that it's a very large product, but it's not a complex product if you learn it in the right way. And the right way is from the object model. Learn object model, start with what a form is, then what a service means in SharePoint, what are services of SharePoint, and things like that coming up. It's a very interesting and a very simple product. For me, I've always found SharePoint simple. In a sense, simple doesn't mean few functionalities. Simple in a sense, it means it's a structured product, and whatever you get to do, the object model remains the same across the functionalities. So looking from that perspective, it's always a streamlined product. And during this time, you could also keep asking you questions, okay, regarding the slides I've already taken or the things you're going to see next. Please, let's keep it interactive going on. Here, I'm moving on to another environment here, which is SharePoint 2013 environment. When you work in SharePoint 2013, you always start SharePoint by having the central administration window. You have SharePoint central administration window here, right? From where we start doing your web application, site collection, sites, and all. These are things you need to learn when you come into SharePoint. That's hello. One of the participants is noting that my voice is not clear. Could any of the others confirm whether it's clear or you having difficulties listening to the audio? Rajendra, can you hear now? Hello? Okay, I think it's fine now. Okay, maybe it's just some glitch on the connection we have. Okay, no issues. Thanks, Pranay, for confirming. Okay, moving on. As I was showing you, central administration. You have a lot of options like application management, system settings. Right, a lot of settings on these. And primarily, when you learn SharePoint, you need to learn most of these options out here. Okay, like manage services on the server. Right, on a SharePoint server, you have a list of services which you need to start and use. See this? These are all services, and each of these doesn't fall into the main bracket we saw. Okay, but most of them are used in each of these. Like when you have content management or you have BI or business connectivity and things like that, you have one or the other ones you need to start using it. Okay, so these are all the services, and each service, when we say, is a functionality. Like let's say Excel calculation services, right, or other thing, access services, or you want to create your independent apps, like app creation in SharePoint. That's apps, app management service, or business data connectivity service here I have highlighted, which is basically used to connect to external data and use into SharePoint 2013. Okay. None of these. So each of these are configurable services. You learn how to configure and create most of these. Site creation, a lot of options on central administration. Now if I go to a primarily development tool like Visual Studio, okay, it's taking a bit of time. Let me start Visual Studio. What I have is Visual Studio 2013, and as you can see, I'll go to File, New, Project. Most of you have used Visual Studio in one way or the other. People who are from a different background. It's one of the best or most powerful programming tools out there today. First choice is what language do you want to choose and start. So you can say Visual Basic is supported, Visual C# is supported, VC++, F#, right, which is a new language. F# is a new language. It's not object-oriented, it's reference-oriented language. Okay, it's a new language which is a superset of C#. Basically, it's much more complex and have more functionalities than C# and Visual Basic today. F#. Adaptation is taking place, but it's not purely object-oriented programming. It's basically reference-oriented programming. So you have languages to choose. And once you have Visual Basic, you have Office SharePoint in it. And in SharePoint, you could choose, you want to create an app for SharePoint, you can see that here. If it's Visual Basic, or you could choose C#. Depends on the language. You have apps for Office, app for SharePoint, cloud-based apps, SharePoint solutions. You want a visual web part, see that? Or a Silverlight web part, things like the visual web part. SharePoint 2010 visual web part, or SharePoint 2013 visual web part. Okay, development options in that. So starting on Visual Studio itself, we have so many options to do. Here I'll open a project solution here. Himanshu, I can see a question you have posted, but it's not complete. Could you just repost the question again, Himanshu? Let the project start. During that time, let me take you through the rest of the slides here. So let me just recap the solution, that'll be better. Let me start with an objective here. We explain what a portal is, what a SharePoint platform is, because objective of the webinar, I need to make sure that you have I have met the objectives here. The platform objectives, basically what is SharePoint is all these functionalities together. I've explained content management, right? BI, enterprise search, evolution, market statistics we saw, programming models you saw, so that now you understand SharePoint from a very high level to say that, okay, it's an open model platform where we have most of the skills we have can be reused. You don't have to learn everything new. Like basically there's absolutely nothing learning new in SharePoint. It's just you understand the object model and start working with it, and configuration and things like that. It's a bit of practice coming up. Right. Yes, Himanshu. Yeah, from Himanshu, there are two templates of Visual Web Part 2010, and yes, Himanshu, yes, there are two web part solutions. One is 2010 and 2013, because 2010 web parts, right, cannot reference the new features of SharePoint 2013. Okay, they are basically kept for backward compatibility. When you migrate your web parts from Visual Web Part from 2010, you need to change and modify them, right? That's why the template is kept for you. But if you want to create a new web part in SharePoint 2013, take the new SharePoint 2013 web part. Okay. We discussed what object model looks like. It's not this simple. Basically, it's a high level, and each of them will have a lot of functionalities and layers to discuss. Plus, we saw the client support, developer tools, and other tools required. And this slide basically is explaining to you the overall course objectives from Edureka, right? You have around 10 modules, and most of the topics we've been discussing, like module 1, module 2, right? You have SharePoint overview, which is basically a hands-on topic which takes you through. Even if you're a beginner, you'll get into understanding SharePoint 2013. You'll work with object layer, start creating and using website, web application, site collection, sites, lists, libraries, set permissions, my sites, and things like that. Like you get a hands-on into SharePoint usage. Once you do that with your developer skills from your prerequisites, because you cannot come into SharePoint without having any programming background. You need some programming background in .NET or Java or something. You have those skill set, then in module 2 we start using and writing visual web parts using that, and custom site columns, content types, everything create on that. Module 3, design and manage features and solutions, developing apps in SharePoint. Module 5 is customizing UI, which is branding. Module 5 is branding. Branding is basically changing the interface of SharePoint, how it looks. Module 6 is developing MMS. Module 7 is business connectivity service. MMS is manage metadata, okay? How to create and customize MMS solutions. Developing business data connectivity services, grabbing external data, because SharePoint can display data from any content source. So how to connect to external content sources and use that data within SharePoint. Automating business process using workflow is module 8. You have customizing enterprise search and implementing enterprise content management, in which basically we focus on a functionality called e-discovery of SharePoint 2013. So it's a full, basically the course is meant for developer community, right, who want to learn SharePoint 2013 from its backend, right, not as a user. You get introduced as a user, but otherwise most of the things how you do and customize SharePoint overall. Right, let's get back to the demo here. What I have here is, and I've already shown you a new project type from C# or something. You can take SharePoint Solutions and in SharePoint 2013 Visual Web Parts, okay, or SharePoint 2010 Visual Web Parts, okay, SharePoint 2013 Visual Web Part. The project you're seeing here is a Visual Web Part project. Here, objective is not for you to learn Visual Web Parts at this stage. I just want to show you the code functionality layers created. People who are in .NET environment can see the extension is it's an ASCX file. When you learn the full concepts, you'll understand why it's an ASCX file and how it gets converted and a lot of things internally. But here is basically an ASCX file. On design, you can drag drop components on top of it, double click and write code. Right? Like when the page loads, do something here. I'm creating a new control at runtime. I'm using an object model here, checklist or list, SP list here. I'm using a class called SP list, which is basically from connecting SharePoint and searching for all the list controls available in that site. A lot of code environments for that. Okay, during the course you'll have a lot of hands-on modules kept for you, like these ready-made packages, which works beautifully. And again, once you have these code controls, you can easily jump across and do your own customizations onto the code as required. If you want to deploy, build the solution for checking for errors. You can right click and deploy the solution also. Deploy means from Visual Studio for testing, you are directly deploying onto a SharePoint 2013 environment. Deployment steps will continue. During the same time, let me just connect to a departmental site here. Let's connect to finance site. Okay, Deepak has a question. What version will we be using of this session? No, we'll be using an on-premise SharePoint, right? The installation will be an on-premise SharePoint, where during the course you need, like, there's a prerequisite for the course, which is the installation you need to do at your end. You basically need one physical machine matching the hardware requirements, not very high end. Today, like a medium to high level PC requirements are there. Once you have that, you'll be installing all the required softwares, starting from Windows 2012 to SharePoint 2013, Visual Studio 2013, SharePoint Design, everything in that box, and following what the course topics are taken, and hands-on practice could be done. So step-by-step guide is there for you to install the environment at your end, right? Not on Office or on-premise, you'll be using a SharePoint on-premise environment, like hard installation, right, to work on the course. And all the softwares are evaluation versions, so you install them, you could keep working with them for the next 3 to 5 months to get comfortable in them. So the only requirement from your end is to have a hardware matching the prerequisites for that. The course overview page in the Edureka site is listing the hardware requirements for that. Okay, right, Deepak? Thank you. All right, here I have connected to a finance department site collection here. Go to site settings. You can see the default look of SharePoint is very plain looking, right? So here, if we come into site settings and change the look, people from SharePoint 2010 and other versions, for changing the layout and look of SharePoint, right, you need to do a lot of things. But in SharePoint 2013, you come to change the look, and you have all these themes and templates created. These are called composed looks. Okay, in SharePoint 2013, what you're seeing here in front of you, these are called composed looks. So you can choose a look which you like. As developers, you could create these. Okay, and for creating these, you don't have to be an advanced graphics guy or anything. You basically need the skills of HTML and CSS. In SharePoint 2013, creating a template like this so you can apply onto your sites directly. So it changes everything, the layout, the structure, everything to your organization's profile. You can create these just with the skills of CSS and HTML. As you know HTML and CSS, you can create your HTML file which matching. Because CSS skills are needed. Okay, you need to design the whole thing. Or you can get it done by someone else, right? Beautiful layouts and everything. Once it's done, you can import that HTML directly and convert it to a master page, and that you can convert that to a composed look. But there are steps involved. It's not like 1, 2, 3, but there are steps involved to do that. But your skill set is basically to the core. That's what I'm saying. What I'm always stressing on SharePoint 2013. It's all the technology required and customization options are all back to the basics, right? You don't need advanced tweaking and changing and all. You don't need Visual Studio coding or anything to change. You just need CSS and style sheet and HTML skills, okay, to do all these. It's very streamlined in SharePoint 2013. So once I have this, I could try it out and apply. Any theme you could choose. So we'll be learning how to do this. You have a specialized environment called a design manager in SharePoint 2013, where you convert HTML files you create into master pages, page layouts, composed looks, all these we created. Okay, I have a couple of questions pending. Let me take one of them. Pranay is asking, which is, when is Visual Web Part used and when is apps used? I mean, which situation? Pranay, it completely depends on what. Basically, both can do most requirements, okay, but when I say most requirements, the most powerful out there is Visual Web Part. Okay, Web Part could do everything because it runs within the server's environment. It's a native environment client. Okay, within the server you have Visual Web Part running, but for an app, apps are not running in the server, right? Apps are created as a client model. So if we just compare the functionality wise, if I say, okay, comparing Visual Web Part to app, which is most powerful, it's Visual Web Part. Okay, direct competition, it's Visual Web Part, which is more powerful than apps. But apps has extra functionality saying that the app doesn't need to run in SharePoint environment. You could run the app externally on another production system and link it onto SharePoint. Right? You could link it onto SharePoint from an external system, and the app could be using a different technology also. That's where the apps become powerful, because Microsoft is opening up the SharePoint environment for third-party organizations and third-party companies to create apps for SharePoint. You know what apps are, right? Today, apps for mobile, smartphones, everything is apps. So SharePoint also will be getting a lot of apps. Plus, there's a marketplace for app. Microsoft has launched an online market store for apps where people can post apps for SharePoint, which very, very functional, beautiful apps are created, posted, and you could just use them with license from the other company, right? So you don't have to recreate all that. So that's where the app arena is changing into. But within an organization, if you want to create your custom components and all, you could use a visual web part for that. But apps cannot run any server code. Okay, it can only use the client object model, not the server object model. So there are some limitations also for apps. There's a long discussion, Pranay, because there's a lot of things I need to discuss to say. But comparatively, apps and visual web parts are more powerful because they can do much more than apps can do. But visual web parts are locally in the server memory. Apps are external, so that external running itself means you get a lot of other facilities with that. But functionality wise, web parts are better. Okay, Pranay? More powerful is web parts. Keshav, I have a question. Could you explain the difference between site pages and application pages? Pranay, in SharePoint 2013, you don't differentiate these. Okay, you don't have a difference on that. Site pages is any page, like you can see the base, the page in front of you. I've just changed the theme of the page, right? I've just changed the theme of the page so that it looks. See that? Earlier you saw a very white themed thing. I just changed a different, I applied a different composed look onto that, and the entire layout things have changed here. So whatever comes in, let's say test page 1. It's taking a bit of time, sorry for that. Let me just say that. Okay. What you're seeing here, when I came to test page 1, what you're seeing here is a page. Okay, I'm just answering the question someone has raised here. Test page and application, site page and application page. There's no difference in SharePoint. What you have is an ASPX file. When you call a page in SharePoint, it's always an ASPX file. It's an application because it runs components on it. It could be just a standard page which is displaying some text. So absolutely there's no differentiation between a site page and an application page in SharePoint 2013. Okay, Kesha. And Rajendra has a question of SharePoint 2013 compared to SharePoint 2010 performance-wise. Native performance-wise, yes, Rajendra, because the technologies have been upgraded to the latest version because .NET 4.5, the core engine running SharePoint itself. SharePoint itself is the interface of SharePoint there. Whatever you interact with in SharePoint is done using .NET Framework 4.5. It's much faster than its predecessors in its native method of execution itself. Otherwise, when you talk about core performance, it's completely depends on how you deployed SharePoint. Okay, it's completely up to your administrators how they deployed SharePoint, right? Not otherwise. If you deploy SharePoint on multiple servers spread across a search component many-wise and things like that, that's performance. But otherwise, application-wise performance, if it's just from a developer's point of view, natively it's faster than SharePoint 2010, right? Because it's a framework version. When you talk about Windows Communication Foundation and Workflow Foundation and .NET Framework Foundation 4.5, it's much faster than its predecessor because it changes in the compiled mode how it works. It is much faster. The rendering is much faster than SharePoint 2010. Right, Rajendra? I'll just connect on to another site collection I have in my demo, which is sales, right? A sales site. And in here, if I go to test page, you can see some sales customer info I have kept here, some calendar controls mapped over here. Connected to another page, test page 1. See, this is the demo for my web part which I have just deployed. Okay, you saw the deployment happening in SharePoint, right? In Visual Studio, we started the demo with the deploying of a web part, a visual web part. The control is very simple. What it does is basically, in my SharePoint, I have some calendar controls like calendar 1, 2, another calendar control in some other site below. And here, if I add an event, let's say I add, second, add an event. Sample event. Sample, sometime locations, save. In any calendar control, these are default calendar controls used by users out there. The component that I have created is my demo code, is basically a custom calendar, which basically when it loads, it searches all other controls out there and displays me all the calendars used by any user. If I choose which calendar that I need, I can choose a calendar and say get appointments, and it'll show me the appointments from that calendar anywhere in SharePoint, right? That's up to you in the code, okay? So here, if I could choose all the calendars and say get appointments, it'll get me appointments from every calendar control listed in the list. And this list also, calendar 1, 2, and 3 is also dynamic. Means what? If I come into test page 1 here and add an event here, for example, in the other calendar, right? Event 1. Just call it event 1 for easy access. Event 1. Some date, save. So I have an event here also, okay, in the other calendar. Let's get back to the other test page where I have added the web part here. So let's say calendar 1 and 2, get appointments. See, event 1 and sample event. These two events are from two calendars, but it's displaying me an aggregate view of the calendars everywhere. That's a master calendar. So the basic code to do that was done here. When it loads, it creates a calendar view control. Then it goes through an if condition which starts a loop for every list in the website and things like that. Okay, I hope doing the code is not the important one. What I'm showing you is creating using Visual Studio. I've created and deployed a custom control here. That's the custom control I've created, and for this, this custom control could be an app or a web part, right? Okay, I have some questions pending. Let me take all that. Give me a sec. Okay. Vijendra is asking, is there a way to get online virtual machine and learn SharePoint 2013 development, as I don't have a software and sufficient hardware? Vijendra, earlier it used to be available from Microsoft Azure itself, but now I believe it's been made chargeable, means you need to pay for the usage, right? If you put a support request to Edureka, I'll reply to your email regarding the current status. But last I heard, they had made it payable. Okay, earlier it was free, you could use it for like 60 days free. Okay, but now I believe they made it chargeable. You had an online SharePoint environment as a developer, you could buy a developer package for testing, like an MSDN pack, which is available for a trial period. But now I believe they've made it charged, right? Yeah, Bhaskar is adding SharePoint Foundation is free, but SharePoint Foundation is nowhere compatible to where SharePoint is. SharePoint 2013 is, right? And yeah. Mahendra, most of you have the same doubt if it's available on the cloud to use on demand basis. It is available, but you need to pay for it as of the last I heard. But I'll definitely get back to you on that in the current status, because Microsoft keeps changing the packs, the The packages keeps changing. But basically, I'll always suggest you, because when you have a hosted environment given for you, they'll be having a lot of restrictions put on the customization you can do in those environments. So if you want to learn SharePoint, that's why we have designed the course also in a model where you have a complete SharePoint environment available for you, right? So you have no restrictions to host any service that you need, right? To take around and see how these are done, roll back, change, and a lot of things. Because when you learn, you need that freedom, because you can't be in a like a hosted environment and learn all that, right? Right. Okay. Fine. Now, those of you who want to follow up on any other downs and technical aspects of the course and how it might happen, please, you have your uh, the SharePoint, the Edureka contacts with you, I believe. That's a question time we have. Please contact Edureka support or the sales team who is in touch with you. And if you have any technical and course related aspects, please send it across to me. I'll reply to you how it gets running. But I'll always strongly suggest, when you're learning SharePoint 2013, have an environment with you, right? And the hardware, you could easily take it on rent, right? You could just use it for 2 months, right? You could just purchase the hardware, don't have to buy all the hardware you need. As a dedicated machine, just get the specific hardware machine from the market on rent. On rental basis, you could just take it for 2 months, do these installations, learn the product as such, and then when you work on a hosted environment like an online cloud and everything, it's fine. But practically, I'm telling you, it's always better you have an environment with you at home or an office where you're practicing it. Okay, not an online and hosted, because over there your customization options are restricted. Unless you know the product from behind, you'd always be working it as a user. As a developer in an online cloud environment, you'd be just developing with student, click a button and everything gets deployed. What if there's an error? That's a question. Over there, most of things works fine, because or they'll say these are not supported, these are not supported. Unless you make it support, you can't deploy it. So there's a lot of restrictions available on these online platforms. Okay, but when you learn the product, it's better you have the whole control out there with you itself. Okay, that's my suggestion. But again, I'll get back to you on the other things. RAM could be ranging from 8 GB to anything more than that. Anything from 8 GB and more, support a 64-bit hardware machine, could be just fine if you want to work with it. The hardware prerequisites are there on the website. Okay? You have the course link on the slide here, right? You can go to edureka.com, search for SharePoint course, click on the links, and you have the full prerequisites given for you over there. Right? That's a typical prerequisite. A couple of GB here and there won't make a much difference, but what we have listed there is an ideal listing. Okay. So as I was telling you, the course we run in SharePoint, right? Live classes are there. Live online classes, class recordings are always stored in LMS, so you can always go back and see your previous classes. These options should be because a sales team should you be informative about all these previously. 24-hour support and all these other project work and everything is there. So I hope the webinar was useful for you and you had your time well spent, right? So hope you all take the next step, right? And take SharePoint 2013 up as a challenge and learn it, because your career prospects are great, right? And other things, let's discuss on the way. So for any more support you require, please contact Edureka support team or the sales team as required. Thanks a lot for your time, right? And all the best to you all. Thank you. Thanks Deepak. Thanks Pranay. Thanks Brajesh. Thanks Keshav. And have a lot of other participants also who haven't uh, been chatting, but quite a few of you have been active on that. Others also, thanks a lot for your time spent with us. I hope you join Edureka for you furthering your career options, or just for the knowledge sake of learning new technologies, right? Thanks, Sriram. So I'll be ending the webinar now. Thank you and take care.